Good evening, and welcome to Writers Unplugged. This is a series as a chance to hear your favorite writers or new to you writers in conversation as if you were eavesdropping on us in a coffee shop. My name is Jen Jumba. I'm a librarian at the main branch of Cleveland Public Library. One of my favorite things to do besides reading is talking to writers. It's an opportunity to get to know their craft, what inspires their stories, where they like to write, essentially getting to know them better and seeing them as human beings and not just the name on the spine of a book. And we are so lucky this evening to have Deborah J. Ledford joining us to talk about the first in a new series, Redemption. But before we get started, a few housekeeping notes to find out who else is visiting Writers Unplugged. Visit cpl.org/upcoming. And Max Backs Books on Coventry is our favorite indie bookstore, and they have copies of Deborah's books just waiting for you. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will ask her. But first, a brief introduction to Deborah. She is an award-winning author of Eva Lightning Dance Duncan, a crime fiction series set in New Mexico from Thomas and Mercer Amazon Publishing. And we'll be talking about Redemption, which is the first in the series this evening. She is a multiple award winner and/or nominee. Her first series is the Smoky Mountain Intrigue Police Procedural Series, and her novel Snare was a finalist for both the Hillerman Sky Award and the New Mexican Arizona Book Awards. Chasing Chaos and Crescendo are both Anthony Award nominees for Best Audiobook, and they're available at Audio and iTunes. Deborah is the president of an independent media company, IOF Productions, Ltd., producer of Causing Chaos and Crescendo audiobooks, as well as The Blind Eye. And you know, if you listen to audiobooks, how special that is. She's a 3-time nominee for the Pushcart Prize, and her award-winning stories appear in numerous print publications, as well as literary and mystery anthologies. She's also a former adjunct professor at Arizona State University for the Virginia G. Piper Center for Creative Writing. But here's the thing, she's such a creative soul. Before her career as a writer, she worked for a decade as a professional scenic artist for motion pictures, industrial films, national commercials, and live theater. Due to her work in industrial films for clients such as Intel, Motorola, Deborah earned security clearance through the U.S. government. Her highest acclaim is for her scenic artistry on the Coen brothers film, Raising Arizona. And I know you're going to do what I'm going to do, which is watch it right after this. So, part Eastern Band Cherokee, she spent her summers growing up in the Great Smoky Mountains of Western North Carolina, where her Smoky Mountain Inquest book series is set. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona, in the area, with her extremely patient husband and their awesome Oski. Now, I was lucky enough to be on a panel with Deborah a couple months ago at BoucherCon in Nashville. And this is a panel for free books and why we need to protect books from being challenged and banned. And it's incredibly special and grateful to be a librarian on a panel with acclaimed writers who read from their favorite banned books to complement my message as a librarian. And then for this panel to be attended by hundreds just reinforces how important it is for us to make books accessible to all. So after this panel, I kept running into Deborah on my way to other panels and around the conference center, and I tried to assure her that I wasn't following her, even if I asked if she would like to be a guest on Writers Unplugged. Deborah graciously said yes, and I think you will all enjoy hearing from her as much as I did meeting her. So join me in a warm welcome to Deborah J. Ledford.
How are you? It's so great to be here. I'm so happy to see you again.
I'm so happy to see you as well. And I'm just going to say, this is Redemption. This is the first in your Eva Lightning Dance Duncan series. And I have to say, I challenge anybody right now to not love the character Ava.
Mm.
She is a phenomenal character. She is multifaceted, multidimensional, which just endears her, I think, to people and to readers in general. So can you give us a brief introduction to who Ava Lightning Dance Duncan is?
Right. It's actually Duran, Ava
Duran,
Lightning
my
Dance
bad.
Duran. No, that's all right. And
I should think of that like the 80s band, Duran Duran. Okay, got it.
yeah, so Ava is actually a a sheriff's deputy for for Taos County, and she is full blood Taos Pueblo, but they, there's been a little bit of a severing between her and the tribe. Um, not real welcoming for females, at the point where this book, where Redemption starts out. And so she found someone who wanted her. So she became a sheriff's deputy, and she's tasked really with the kind of being the bridge between the county and any natives that might be not being good and need a little bit of slapping along the way. So she's the bridge, the peacekeeper between the natives and anyone in the county, essentially citywide as well. So yeah, the reservation is literally only a mile from town limits of Taos. So it's everybody's busy.
Yeah, and she has an enormous responsibility, I think, to be able to exist, and to thrive in both worlds.
Right, right.
Given
Very
her
true.
background. So I have to say, like the line on the back of the book kind of says it all. She's the storm they never saw coming.
Right.
So
And that's kind of the thoroughfare for the entire series, because it's she knows what she should do and what she's supposed to do, but is she going to do that?
yeah,
It's,
I imagine that it has to be conflicting for her,
yeah,
trying to navigate both, and as you said earlier, to be the bridge between the two.
right.
Um,
Well, and the reservations, they have different rules
mhm.
than even city jurisdictions or county jurisdictions. I mean, if you're in the city and you hear someone screaming for help, you can as a police officer, you can, and this isn't for every city, of course, jurisdictions they're different, but a police officer can enter that home and make sure that there isn't someone being bludgeoned or assaulted, whereas on the reservation you can't do that. I mean, there are a lot of different rules, so it's she really is conflicted about what it is she should be doing and what it is she actually does do.
Yeah, and that comes across throughout this story. That you sense that tension within her, wanting to do the right thing, not just for her job in law enforcement, but also, as a human being into her community.
Right, right. And yeah, so she kind of takes it upon herself to look for her very good friend who no one but her believes is missing,
Hmm.
and that again puts her on the outs with not only her her even her sheriff and all of the other deputies, but also her very close friends who are who work on as tribal officers on the Taos Pueblo on that force too.
Yeah, I will say the case that she's working on is incredibly difficult. It's also incredibly relevant because it talks about the opioid crisis
Right.
that we are facing, nationwide. But one of the gifts that you have as a writer is being able to take these important topics and put human faces on them and stories behind, because her best friend is Paloma,
Right.
and started off very innocently, was in a horrible car accident and was prescribed pain medication by the doctor to help aid in her recovery because she had a pretty severe leg injury.
Right.
And not knowing what we know now in terms of the addictive properties of said medications, and it starts off very innocently.
Right.
um,
Right. And that that is the unfortunate situation that so many people have fallen into, and families left behind, and it's a tragic situation, and it is it does go on, and the unfortunate situation with Paloma, she was a world class hoop dancer
mhm.
and performance multi award winning 85 sashes from wins, And her and her husband, a Navajo gentleman, he was driving, and they were along with three other dancers. So all four of them perished in this crash. It wasn't an accident; it was a drunk driver that hit them.
Right.
And she was left, bereft and with a son.
Yeah.
He would have been seven. Let's see, he would have been 15 at the time, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And so it was, and then she gets hooked on these pills, and then she can't get the pills anymore, and so she turns to what she can and what's available. And it's a real unfortunate situation.
It is, and
There is a zero tolerance, drug tolerance on the Taos Pueblo. I mean, of course, anybody can get what they want if they really, really want it. But like I said, the city limits are only a mile away, and then you've got Santa Fe an hour south, and then Albuquerque another south of that. So there are all kinds of opportunities to get whatever you want. It's so yeah,
sadly.
sadly.
But I was struck by reading about, these. This isn't a spoiler. There's 4 women that are missing, which includes Paloma, Ava's best friend,
Right.
and just the talent of these individuals. And you do a great job to paint those pictures for us. The hoop dancing. I immediately went, and started looking for video because you capture it in words, but to
Mhm.
be able to see exactly
Yeah, it's
that,
fascinating.
it is absolutely fascinating.
And
One
there,
guy
it's
can chew
known
gum and
for.
walk at the same time.
Right. I know. Right? I was like, how am I going to convey this? So,
Yeah.
but she, and it's primarily, back in the day, it was only men who did the hoop dancing. And then,
Okay.
so that's why it was kind of opened up to her, because, it was kind of somewhat of a novelty, but then it's like everybody really in all 4 corners of the state, the states, all 4 states, realize what a huge talent she is. And that's really where the antagonist comes in, where the villain comes in, becomes obsessed with her. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think about the other women. For what they're known for. One is a tremendous basket weaver,
Right.
and tradition says that the basket weaving is stories that have been gleaned orally as well as hieroglyphically, to continue that narrative, and she puts her own spin on it. So again, you have somebody who's kind of challenging the tradition, which is the same thing that Paloma did by being a
Right.
woman and being that exceptional in dancing.
Yay. I'm so glad you got that.
Oh, I thought that with all of them, and
Yeah.
sadly for her, her family was so threatened by her talent that people wanted her baskets and not her family's baskets, which has been a tradition,
Right.
that has been passed down. That they started kind of taking them away so that
Right.
people wouldn't have access to them. And I think, my goodness, like, all of these themes play out in our lives. We always,
Right.
hopefully not always, come across people who might be jealous of what we have and don't know how to react to that. And so instead of finding their own path, choose to deter ours.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly.
so that came across. The other one is a fabulous jeweler,
Hmm.
by discovering, stones that have been eroded, over time and through the elements to make
Right.
this incredible jewelry that
Right.
she's known for, that people come from all over
Hmm.
to purchase.
Right. Right.
So,
And the last one is drum maker.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so when we're talking drums, I mean, this is the thing that was fast. I learned so much in this book.
Oh, good.
It's not just she makes drums, she goes out and hunts with a bow and arrow,
Yep.
ends the life of that animal,
Mhm.
then takes the hide, and then uses that to stretch to make these drums. So you
Exactly.
think about, like, there's part of me that's like, oh, look at all these creative elements. And then I was like, oh, look at, like, the 4 elements that we have in this world, right?
Right.
So
Right.
was just
Right.
blown away by the talent and the
You're making me
creativity
sound
and
so smart.
I know, right? Wait, that's not right.
But the drum maker, and also again, it is 99.9% on the Taos Pueblo are known for, male drum makers. So again,
Yes.
it's the ladies, making their own way, and then the crumbling of all of their existence because the entire tribe turns their back on all of them. Not only because of the drug use, but also because, oh, it's convenient. Now we don't need to pay any attention to them.
Yeah, which is surprising because, most people in a community that's tight wants to help not turn their back, and I found
Right.
that very striking.
Right. Yeah,
That
and it
where
does
else were
depend
they
on the
supposed to
tribe.
go?
Yeah, it depends on the tribe. I mean, but it is, I mean, I have found that reservations with multiple tribes and bands are much more community oriented. Whereas if it's a strictly, I mean, we're talking 110,000 acres and less than 1,200 residents on the Taos Pueblo. And so it's
Wow.
kind of, and their main industry is, of course, is tourism.
Hmm.
The tourists who come around the world to look at the ancient dwellings, but also for all of the artistry, for the artisans and what they sell on the Pueblo, but also in Taos and Santa Fe. So
Right.
it's yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think one of the great things. So I'm joined in conversation by multiple award-winning writer Deborah J. Ledford, first in the series, which is an incredible series called Redemption, and I'm struck by. I don't know, but the ring light's making me crazy. The gorge, right? So
Yeah.
the this plays an important role. I would almost argue that it plays as a character in this book because
Right.
so many things happen from that bridge. And so, of course, they start to think like you're trying to bridge two different worlds, right? Ava's navigating, you know, working for the county, but yet her, background and her life experiences being on the res,
Right.
right? You have two
Right.
different
Exactly.
generations, the older generation, the traditional, and then you have the young women that are kind of defying that by adopting these roles and doing incredibly well through the arts,
Exactly.
to preserve their culture, to
Yeah.
preserve the storytelling.
Exactly.
Um, it just strikes me, and then I think like, gosh, there's always in every place in the world where there's two seemingly different views, there's always somebody or something that acts as like the bridge between them,
Right. Right.
and kind of view Ava's role as that is to be able to bridge that and help people find that we have a lot more in common than we do different,
Right.
and
Right.
those different experiences actually help make us better, seeing things from different perspectives.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I enjoyed this thoroughly, and Havoc was delivered today, so
Oh, nice. Nice.
like a
You
junkie, right?
get
I
get a little more
finished.
Ava and her crew. That's great.
Yeah, it's just sometimes as a reader, you come along a character, you're like, man, that's a character I'd want to hang out with. That's a character I'd want to go meet for a beer or
Good.
a coffee. You
Great.
just like her thoughtfulness and then her strength. I mean, there were some lines in the book where she talked about, like, it's one of the first scenes in the book where she's getting ready to go to work and she's putting on the belt and she's putting on the gun, and she's putting on the taser and all of the things to protect her, and she kind of talks about how she kind of enjoys being able to control situations in this role,
Right.
whereas growing up that was not something that was encouraged. This is now like a learned behavior because her mom would tell her, just be invisible,
Right.
just go along, be invisible. And I think, wow, you
She's
know
not invisible anymore.
no, she is the storm they never saw coming. No, which is terrific, because I think if you give somebody the opportunity, to be who they are and to play to their strengths,
Mhm.
um, good things can happen.
Right. And she didn't really have, she had her grandfather growing up. Her
Hmm.
her parents pretty much disappeared on her. They became, very famous pottery artists. But in order to do that, they moved to Santa Fe. So it was left all on her grandfather and her really to make all growing up from the time she was 16 on. And so I think in the back of her mind, she's still, now that he is gone, now that he has passed,
Mm-hmm.
trying, also trying to make him proud as well, you know,
Yeah,
as much as, keeping him in her life as she can, even though he's gone.
absolutely. You find her in the book kind of saying, okay, are you with me?
Right.
What do you do? And, if you're quiet long enough, you will hear the answer.
Right.
Um, I really enjoyed the story that he told her about the crosses.
Mm.
Is that something
Yeah,
you can
that's
share
real.
with us?
That is absolutely real. Right. So in this one, and also with Havoc, I never present anything that my contacts say, no, we don't want you to use this. It's too
Okay.
far. It's too personal. It's nobody's business. And I always agree. Um, and really, even when I'm kind of on the edge of it, it's okay. Can I find this on the internet? Can I do a deep dive? Um, and I found out about the crosses from a tour. For I just, I did a tour of the Taos Pueblo along with, I don't know, there were 12 other people, and just kind of in the background because I had already, years worth of being there and going there and so forth. It was the first time the Taos Pueblo was introduced was in Snare, which is from my first series. So I already did all of that research and so forth. And then it was like, well, I want to take this tour, see what this little kid has to say. And he told us about the crosses and now that particular graveyard is closed now. It's essentially built. I mean, it when the when COVID started, and people started to perish, is like, okay, we need to find another plot of land to use. So they closed the original graveyard, and all that's left of that graveyard are the stones that are the crosses that are remaining, and then just the outline of the bell tower. The church is gone; it was destroyed by the Spaniards, and so really it's just ruins. And what happens is, so they only do just a very simple cross, simple white cross, right? And they have the name scrawled out. And when at the time the cross drops, then the spirit is free to go. It's free to leave the grounds essentially, and nothing ever leaves the graveyard. And also there are no full blood Taos Pueblo members go into the graveyard. So the people who actually take care, they'll take the fallen crosses and they'll stack them up against all of the hundreds of others that have already fallen, and they do the weeding and so forth. Generally, they are close to the tribe. It might be a member, a wife or a husband of a full blood Taos Pueblo member, but so it's another way, another completely sacred element to let the spirits release the spirits. Let's just say free to go, and 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 with hopes watching over those that they love.
I was struck by that story to the point where, had goosebumps, reading it.
Ooh,
And at the same
nice.
time, it was that sense of comfort that people are never really gone.
Right,
And to be able
right,
to honor that
right,
in a very
right.
thoughtful and meaningful way.
That
So,
was the hope.
yeah, so I'm joined by multiple award-winning writer Deborah J. Ledford. This is Redemption, the first in the series. So throughout this book, it's infused with culture, from recipes. So find myself being very hungry at one point when they're making fry bread and, you know, with honey and dress ceremonial dresses and
Hmm.
language. This is the Tiwa language.
Yes. Tiwa.
Yes. And just found myself learning and fascinated and, you know, wanting to learn more. So they all have these spiritual names.
Yes. Right.
And so I started to think, like, where does that come from? And so I do a little bit of, online looking in to see, is this something that they're given at birth? And sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Right.
So how is somebody given a spirit
Right.
name?
And that, and it is, it does depend. Sometimes, it's always an elder that names them, and not even necessarily a direct Thai elder.
Okay.
So it's like a favorite auntie, that type of thing.
Okay.
Lightning Dance is Ava's name,
Yes.
but Paloma is White Dove.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was always Paloma's the dancer. Why didn't I get Lightning Dance, But
Exactly.
Lightning Dance actually does suit Ava far more than White Dove, and White Dove does suit Paloma. So, I mean, even now, you know, I spend so much time on names. Oh my gosh, Jen, I spend so
Yeah.
on every project I ever do.
Yeah.
And like for surnames, I went to it was the archives for the Census Bureau in
Okay.
1840. They were keeping track of everybody. Um,
Yeah.
and I followed all the names. It's like, boy, these are the same names that still come up, for Taos Pueblo, from day one. That I was able to go as far back as I was able to go.
Wow.
So it's, like Duran is a very old name. And so it's, so yeah, so elders do provide the names. And, even for us, we kind of grow into our names a little bit. You like, but I always, I'll bring up, the 17 tabs, like, what does this mean? What does this mean?
Yeah.
I think maybe he was Scandinavian at one time. Maybe his family goes far back as Scandinavia, blah, 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 blah. And I will find out what a name means. And,
Okay.
and then the name suitable to the personality.
Okay.
To me, it helps me ground the characters and give a little bit extra level and layer of my own as the creator of the character, a little bit of more understanding of where they are or where they're going to grow to be or to become.
Right.
So I have a lot of fun with names.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating that you pick them because you kind of know the type of character that you think they that you think they ought to be.
Right.
But every writer says, nope, that character's like, nope, not doing that. Nope, I'd rather do this.
Yeah.
And that just kind of amazes me, to think that through.
Mhm.
But you just mentioned something earlier where you said that, we can grow into our names. So
Right.
if you're given a spirit name at birth,
Mhm.
does it does that encourage you to do certain things? Do you see
Oh,
what
that's a good question. Yeah, sort of, because like for my psychopaths, for my they pretty much are psychopaths, but we know they're definitely sociopaths with narcissistic tendencies, let's just say.
okay. Yeah.
But but yeah, they do. I mean, I have a firm idea because they're pretty much set in what it is they want to do. There isn't a lot of growth of character I mean, it's not like, no, 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 it's not, it's going to be like
Right.
this and it's only going to be, and this is it. They believe their truth is truth. They
Mm-hmm.
believe what they are doing is correct
Yep.
and completely forgivable because it's what they want.
Yeah.
Um,
The ends always justify the means for,
exactly,
yes.
exactly. And it's very selfish, and yet they see it as not selfish, that they are helping. They are lending a hand to who it is they're actually, being detrimental to. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we all want to believe our own narrative, right? Like we all
right,
tell ourselves a story and
right.
kind of
Yeah,
believe that because nobody wants to think that they're a psychopath or what did you say, sociopath with narcissistic tendencies.
correct. Or even
Um,
wrong. Or even wrong, right?
yeah, no, I mean, nobody wants to be wrong. Everybody gets really defensive. And heck, I mean, your background as a professor of creative writing, I can't imagine, when you write, that's so much a part of you on that page, even if they're characters that are dissimilar to you.
Oh,
Like
sure.
that's like heart and soul on the page, and then to have feedback about that, it's not always easy.
Not always, not always.
Yeah.
But I mean, I appreciate, excuse me, I ask people, what did you not like? Right? I mean, I'm just absolutely touched, and I love that when people like the work,
Yeah.
but when I ask them straight out, what didn't work for you, or what did you not like, and so forth and so on. That helps me later on, as I'm making plans or coming up with ideas for like the next round, so forth.
So, so I'm joined in conversation by the fabulous, multiple award-winning writer Deborah J. Ledford. So you wrote another series.
I did.
How do you approach series? Like, do you know what the overarching story is, and then how do you decide? This is Mike's favorite question. If you're
Okay.
somebody who plans or
Mhm.
is an architect, or are you more somebody who will just sit down and start writing and, kind of
Well,
immerse yourself in the character and
right. Staccato was the very first book.
okay.
And it took a long time to get that published. Oh, I mean, it was 100 rejections. It literally was 100 rejections back in the day, where I could even get it into to editors at actual publishing houses. And I was involved in an online, looking for the next best, crime writer. And it
Mm-hmm.
was back when Barnes and Noble was trying to make their own publishing company. And anyway, so I was so I there were like 3,000 entries or something, and I made it into the semifinals, and then I made it into the next round. And fortunately, there was a publisher, kind of a mid-level indie publisher, trolling for talent essentially. So he picked me up.
Awesome.
All of the all those rejections was like, see, I told you he was
I
good.
know. I was just
But
gonna say, like, did you write all of them back and say, look?
but well, the thing is that there was so many of their responses were, hey, we really like the characters, we love the setting, it's a very interesting thriller, but it's not like anything else that's out there. And I'm like, isn't that the point?
That
I mean,
is.
I
I
thought
was just
that
gonna
was the
say,
point.
yeah.
Alas, no. So anyway, so that was published, and or not published, but the publisher came to me and said, hey, we really love Staccato, and this is a series, right? And I'm like, what? Because I started out as a screenwriter, so everything that I ever wrote was original, standalone. This is not gonna, this is not gonna be a Marvel situation where I can make 17 books out of, it was going to be a standalone. And then it's like, well, yeah, sure, it's a series.
Mm-hmm. That's just the
So
first, if you
yeah,
like
so
it.
then it was like, okay, so the manuscript was essentially done, but then it's like, if this is going to be a series, I've got to add stuff to it. I mean, I need to add a love interest
Yep.
so that my character can grow and it's not just someone who's thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
So Enola is introduced as the love interest. Stephen Hawke is the lead in Staccato and Snare, and then Enola Walela takes over the lead. His love interest takes over the lead for Crescendo, and then for Causing Chaos. So there's 4 books in that series. So I kind of decided I really want Enola to take the spotlight in the third and fourth. And it was actually called the Stephen Hawke / Enola Walela series to begin with. It's like, that's too much. So then I just, gave it an overall name,
Yeah.
Smoky Mountain Inquest series. So I had more in mind for growth of Enola along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to write another Enola book. There probably will be another Enola book at this point, because they are published through my own media company.
Okay.
So I did get the rights back. I
Good.
won all kinds of awards and acclaim, and they just dropped the ball. And it's like, okay, I really need to get my rights back, because y'all just aren't doing it for me. And then yeah, so so that was the first series.
So I'm struck by Redemption. This is the
Mhm.
first in the Ava Lightning Dance series. I'm joined in conversation by acclaimed multi-award winning writer Deborah Ledford. That being said, um, this story is told from multiple points of view,
Yes.
which I think is a spectacular feat as a writer. As a
Mhm.
reader, I think it's fabulous because I get to see the same thing from multiple perspectives.
Right.
And your chapters are short, so it's the
Mhm.
typical just one more chapter, just one more chapter. The pacing is
Mhm.
terrific. Um, and I've said before to other writers that the great thing about storytelling is you're able to understand not just the what they did, but why they did,
Mm.
which is a gift that you give us as readers, because we can understand why they're doing what they're doing, might not agree with it.
Right.
But this
Right.
has so many different points of view. How did you keep
It
track?
does.
I mean,
It
Alice's
does.
point of view, Ava,
Right.
Kai.
Excel sheets can be your very best friend.
Oh, good. Another spreadsheet
So yeah,
fan.
I'm really anal about that because I mean I even color code my characters so I can see, oh, I mean I because all of my books essentially take place over no more than 3 days time. I mean they are
Exactly.
very fast paced. Um, and I do that for a reason, but the spreadsheet is great because if I see, oh, I got three Ava chapters in a row, I know I need to, stick a cruise in there, or a Paloma in there, or a Kai in there. Um, but that also helps because, as any type of law enforcement officer, they're on the road a lot. I mean, they
Yeah.
just drive and drive and drive. And so that helps to fill in what the other characters are going through and thinking and dealing with, while Ava is getting to, where she needs to be to then advance her part of the story.
Yeah.
So so yeah, Excel sheets. Woo, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. I also use a bullet journal so that I can make it make sense for me, and everything I do is color coded too.
I
And
know,
I
I love
have
it.
Excel spreadsheets for just about everything. Holiday shopping, spreadsheets.
There you go. Yep,
They're my friend.
absolutely.
House
And then the
projects, spreadsheet.
Google
Yeah.
Calendar has every color means something else to me.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So kindred spirit. I love it. You just
But if
mentioned.
I could just also say, Jen, is that
Yeah.
helps me also that I can move things around. It's like, so I'll do the chapter number, the name of the point of view, the time of day, and then just a real short snippet of what happens in that chapter,
Ooh.
so that then it's like, oh, I think I need this to happen first, so then I can move everything, and then
Yeah.
and then I
Insert
go
row
back and
above.
move it from the master, Word file,
Yeah.
to make sense. But that's kind of my overall master plan is with an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
Saves so much time.
I would think so. That I mean, it's impressive. So you mentioned in passing that you do it over 3 days time
Mhm.
on purpose. Can you
I do.
explain a
Oh,
little bit more?
right. Well, because especially when there are jurisdictions involved, especially like on reservations and so forth,
Hmm.
when a hardcore crime such as a murder occurs on the reservation, that's when the federal agencies become involved. So,
Hmm.
but they have to be invited. So the tribal council would need to meet. First of all, so for the Taos Pueblo, there's a governor
Okay.
and there's a war chief. So
Okay.
there are, and then their councils. So there's the two big bosses. There's no chief.
Okay.
It's the war chief and the governor, and then their council, main council, three to four members, and
Okay.
then there's the tribal council, which is 12 to 25 people, depending on which
Yeah.
administration it is. So they have to come together and decide. Well, maybe we need to bring in the feds. Then they're going to bring in the chief of police for the tribal police office agency, and then they decide. There's also a sheriff's entity on the Taos Pueblo, so it's a lot has to happen before an actual decision is to, hey, let's call in the FBI or the BIA or whatever we need to, because maybe we're going to need some help with this, investigate this murder that happened on tribal land.
Yeah, I know given the case that Ava's working on, she says, "Well, hold on, let me check, make sure everything is okay. Let me be the messenger."
Right.
And it's like 150 people trying to coordinate schedules in a very short period of time, and she asked for like, I think 2 weeks, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Nope, a week. Nope, you got like 48 hours, and the clock started,
Right.
yesterday."
Right. Exactly.
Just a
They already
very
know.
short period of time to coordinate.
Right.
And then it's complicated in this case. This isn't a spoiler, but somebody's found half on half on the reservation and half on like county land, so that
County land.
further complicates
Yeah.
things.
Right. And that's where, her sidekick, who was the and also her somewhat in book
Oh,
one,
I have a
somewhat
crush
love
on Chris.
interest.
Come on.
Yeah, Cruz Romero. And he's like, no, this is my case. No, this is my case. It's like, oh, this is our case. So we're gonna have to work together and figure this out.
So people from different perspectives can work together on things.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. So that's good. That's hopeful. That's hopeful. So the other thing is that you talk about and do a great job is, kind of overall themes and life lessons, right? That I kind of picked up on. One of them being Kai. And we haven't talked about Kai. Kai is Paloma's son. I know. What a soft spot I have for him. He's 18 years old, senior in high school. His mom has been missing for this point, 2 weeks.
Right.
And he's also kind of conflicted, right? His mom has disappeared a couple times before, never this
Right.
long. There's what's expected of him. He's just struggling. He's at that age where he's trying to be a man, and at the same time, he's still a kid. And he's with his uncle, Paloma's brother, and he's
Oy.
in tears, and it's never apologize for being real.
Right.
And how often we all hide behind masks, and if we would just be a little bit more real, I
Right.
think things would be a little bit easier.
Right. Yeah, and Santiago, he definitely wears the mask. He's
Yeah, he's
yeah.
one of, I would consider, I guess, an elder within the
Yes.
House Pueblo.
Yeah, he would be an elder. Yeah, he would be and the decider of much and most. So he, but he's a great guy. I mean, he's a good guy. Um,
Yes.
but he's kind of put in the middle of so many. I mean, we're talking, he's Paloma's older brother, and it's his responsibility to take care of her and watch over her. And he feels like he dropped the ball, but he's blaming it on her because of the drug use, and it's just he's dealing with a lot. And then he's got this kid that is like, he's not a dad, and and Kai has his own mind, and he's dead set, mom is not dead, and
Nope.
somebody, she could be out anywhere, she could be anywhere, and I just know that we need to bring her home.
Absolutely. So I'm joined in conversation with the multi-award winning Deborah J. Ledford. We're talking about Redemption. This is the first in the Ava Lightning Dance series. Speaking of Kai and wanting to kind of find his own way,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to do what people expect of him versus what he wants to do. And there's kind of this cool thing where Ava allows him to kind of do some investigative type work where
Yeah.
he feels like he's
Yeah, it's not, it's she shouldn't be doing that, but it's like, but there's the threats, it's like,
yeah,
he's going to go off and do it on his own, and he's not going to be safe, so he's got
no,
to keep her safe because she feels really in her heart that she's going to find Paloma, and that she's responsible even more than Santiago is,
yep.
to keep him safe and on track.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just a wonderful character, and the scenes that you have where he's hanging out with the puppies, um, and just endearing.
Then you're really going to like Havoc because he's
Oh,
got a sidekick in Havoc.
oh, awesome.
It's one of those puppies.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait. Um, so it's just interesting that so many things you can extract from this book. It is a thriller. It is fast paced. It is a case that Ava's trying to solve. There's, the infusion of indigenous culture, which I find fascinating, and
Mhm.
it just makes me want to learn even more, including there's a couple scenes where Kai's wearing like a medicine bag. Can
Right.
you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, and that's Navajos also use medicine bags, and essentially it's I have one here. If I could untie it, it would be great. But it's so they keep little treasures essentially, things that have meaning to them. Sorry if I'm fumbling here, but it's about ready here. It's worth the wait. So here's an example.
Wow.
So it's a little beaded bag, and then it's got a little tie
Okay.
that you feed through, and then you put your little
So
stones or sage or uh, tobacco for blessings.
yeah.
The Navajos use corn pollen.
Okay.
So essentially, it's something to remind them and to keep them grounded. They wear it, and then under their shirt,
Yeah.
keep it close to their heart.
That's such a sweet gesture. Who decides what goes in the bag?
It's very personal. It's what has meaning to the person who's wearing the bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just the imagery, and I feel like I came away. I want to say smarter because that I don't want to be insulting, but just curious to learn more. And when you
Oh, good.
depict it from a person's point of view and not like the textbook, that you're
Right.
reading in school or some of the other
Right.
sources, it just becomes incredibly real and authentic.
Yeah, I try to take the reader there. I mean, I try to, and I think I was very fortunate to do screenplays first because it taught me that it's only what the camera sees. And so myself as the writer, then I'm taking the reader where what my character is seeing. That's 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 what I love to read too.
Mm-hmm.
Other writers taking me, where they're. I mean, I'm reading Tracy Clark's Echo right now.
Oh, isn't she
Oh
great?
my gosh, it's like nobody does Chicago like Tracy Phillips.
No,
But
she that whole city becomes a character.
right. Oh, I just love and I adore her. And yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. So I love those stories because I've spent time in Chicago, but I haven't spent time in that Chicago.
No, exactly. Yeah, and I can remember being there for a conference and like reading the first. Get the name of it.
Hide.
On the shelf.
It's hide.
Hide is
Hide.
the first in the
Hide.
series.
Yeah. Hide.
And
Hide and then
there's
fall. Yeah.
scenes along the river, like where all the bars and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I was walking there, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that kind of stuff could happen. You just kind of,
I know, right?
yeah. It's great, and I think you did a wonderful job capturing that part of the U.S. as well. Just these vast deserty landscapes, but yet have this vibrant floral,
Yeah.
accompaniment to it.
Right. And the clouds, the
Yeah.
Hiroshima whipped cream colored, clouds is like there's nothing like that. There are no clouds that I've ever encountered anywhere I've ever been that are like the clouds in New Mexico with the storms starting to churn.
Yeah. So is your background in writing screenplays, is that why you're able to create such vivid settings?
I think so. I think it helped me. I hear about people who start with novels and then go to screenplays. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I know it's a completely different mindset. It just is a completely different mindset because there are no thoughts involved. It's strictly, what like I said before, what the camera sees. So
Right.
so yeah, I do. And sometimes that's like the third draft before it's like I'll be writing, and then I'm like, I need to throw some atmosphere in here, or
Yeah.
or bring in more of the senses, or oh, let's see if I can convey what that tamale smells like,
Yeah.
or
Did so.
what the
Hungry.
river sounds like, where when Kai is up on that bridge, what is he
Yes.
hearing when he's so conflicted and really trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what is the next step for me?
Yeah, and just even navigating the river,
Yeah.
looking down, and at one point they see, somebody in a raft, and 8 people with oars. And I was like, oh, she's talking about rowing. I was like, no, it's a raft. When I row, it's like flat
Oh
water.
yeah. Right. It's much
There's
different.
no rapids. But just being able to capture that and that pacing, and your
Mhm.
like opposite things are true at the same time, right?
Right.
That you have tension and I want to say fear. That's not quite the right, but that sense of foreboding. And at the same time, there's this beautiful landscape. And
Right.
you've captured it where I feel like I'm just kind of sitting there with my legs swinging over the bridge, you know, on
Right.
the other side of it, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and it's so my contact. I have one primary contact, and then he's got children.
Okay.
So I get their viewpoints, and then a former wife, and so early on it was her viewpoint, and then his brother was a drum maker. So back when Snare was around, 2006 was my first trip, my first research trip to the Taos Pueblo. So
Okay.
it's been a long time, um, and so you know they would tell me stories and stories like, oh, can I use that? And it's like, nope. Can I use that? Nope. So
Nope.
you kind of have to know, but I said, well, why are you telling this stuff? If I can't explore what the characters I create could go through, similar to what you're telling me, it's like, no, I trust you. I need to know that I can trust you. And then it's like, and then I got it. It's like, okay, I completely understand now. But they were telling, so then I was able, I could text them whenever I want. I mean, it doesn't middle of the night or
Yeah.
give a phone call. And it's like, there was one point where, as you all read, which I hope that you will,
Oh,
um,
yeah, absolutely. Everybody,
is,
go get it.
yeah, redemption, is there's something that happens on the river, on the Rio Grande, where they have to go somewhere, and it's like, I need to be able to get something out of the river. How would I get something out of the river? And then they were talking about, well, you can rappel down the side. It's like, that sounds like a lot of work. Or you can rappel off the bridge. Like, that sounds dangerous. He said, but there's also a rafting trip that you can raft. A 3.5 mile stretch. It's like, oh. So I
Yeah.
mean, there's always, it seems like, I mean, and I'm very, very fortunate in that some elements have always worked out. I mean, it just, so fortunate that I then was like, that's going to work. I know that will work.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, there's so many things. I my full intent was to take the reader on a journey that was real
Hmm.
and could be experienced, if, well, except for the murder and stuff.
Yeah. Aside from
We don't
that.
want you experiencing that, but to walk in Ava's shoes and
Hmm.
and see, look at the ancient dwellings and smell the bread burning from the Orno stoves outside. And
Oh,
I
absolutely.
just, I there's
Sage.
such
Yeah.
amazing special people and so funny. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm so happy I was able to impart, a bit of humor with this series. But the first series is, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
But this one, I did have a lot of fun because there's some fun banter. I think that
Oh,
that
there's
goes back
there's
and
some
forth.
great one-liners. Kai is Kai is Kai's great. Some of the
He's
stuff that he
witty.
says to Ava, I'm like, oh my god, that's really funny. And then I was like, wait, am I supposed to be laughing? Because this is kind of. And then I was like, oh, he does what like I do. Like things are really like tough or difficult, so we'll make jokes through it to cope, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Right.
but yeah, Kai kind of stole my heart.
Oh, good. Yeah, everybody loves Kai. Everybody loves Kai, and I love him too.
Yeah. Yeah, he is terrific. So what's next? Is there after Havoc? Is there more Ava to come?
Fingers crossed. I mean, it was a 2 book deal, so it's I'm working on something new right now,
Okay.
and it takes place in Oregon, kind of on the Oregon coast, and it involves
Okay.
a clandestine winery and stolen water rights on a reservation. So completely new cast of characters, new location. I'm having so much fun, and it's a mystery. It's like a puzzle mystery. I mean, I've
Ooh.
written a lot of screenplay. I mean, a lot of short stories that are, just straight mysteries. I
Yes.
mean, I've written 6 books of thrillers, but this is a
Yes.
departure where it's only her point of view. She's half white, half Calapai native. And yeah, so look for that. I'm having so much fun with it. And
That
then, and
is
I know what I'm going to do with book 3. I absolutely know what I want to do with book 3.
okay.
So fingers crossed.
Oh yeah. So that's up to us to make sure that
That's
we
right.
buy Redemption, and then Havoc is the second book in the series, so that we can make sure we have book 3 with
Yes.
Ava Lightning Dance. Yeah, the
Poor
storm
Ava.
they never saw coming. It's such a great one-liner. You know,
Yes.
um, so it's hard to believe. We're wrapping up because I could talk to you for the
Oh, this
rest
has
of
been
the evening.
great.
So first, the final 5
Okay.
questions,
Okay.
right?
Here we go.
So Tanita is a basket weaver. Her
Mhm,
designs come to her often, she says, in the middle of the night.
mhm.
Where do your ideas come to you?
A lot in the middle of the night. I mean, I trained myself very, very early on to keep a notebook at my bedside
Okay.
because I'm never going to remember it in the morning. But boy, it's a really nice surprise when I wake up. It's like, oh, look at that! As long as I can read the writing, then we're good. But that, and also in the bathtub, for some reason, I mean, I always yell at my husband, John, bring me my phone, and then I'll voice record, a snippet of note, and
Yeah, absolutely. Mine happens to be when I'm drying my hair.
oh,
Like I have
interesting.
ideas for things. And I
Oh,
don't know
that's
if it's just like the monotonous, because it's my hair's actually curly and I straighten it every day. So as I'm
uh-huh.
drying it and straightening it, there's just something that happens. I don't
Oh, that's.
quite
I
get
wonder
it,
if it's
but
also noise related.
maybe.
Hmm.
So
Investigate that.
Ava's mind is settled in this book after a good storm. What settles your mind?
Hmm. Boy, that's a good question because there's a lot. It's like
It would,
nobody wants inside this head. Um, that's a really good question. I always have to read at the end of the day. I mean, a physical book, an actual book,
mm-hmm.
and if I'm too tired, it's like, no matter how tired I am, even if it's just, 3 or 4 pages, I think that settles me more than anything else.
Yeah.
Um, and it also allows me to then put that down and maybe I can think of there's something that's not quite working with my manuscript and then I go to sleep. And that's oftentimes when I'll wake up and it's like,
Okay.
oh, it's solved. That'll work. Maybe.
That's that's awesome. What band, alive or dead, would you love to see live in concert?
Oh, the Killers. Yeah, right. Rock and
Mr.
roll,
Brightside.
baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Snacks, sweet or salty?
I am currently off of candy, which is my anything cinnamon. Oh my gosh,
Uh,
that's my weakness
wow.
since I was a child. So I'm gonna go with potato chips,
Yeah, there we
salty.
go.
Yeah.
There we go. And then the last of the 5 questions. What's the best piece of advice somebody has ever given you?
Someone has ever given me. I guess just never give up. But can I give a piece of advice that I give writers?
Sure,
I
absolutely.
would say don't let the word count hink you up. If you're working on I mean, with Redemption and Havoc, these were picked up by proposals, so it's like, which doesn't really happen very much anymore. But I had 90 days to turn in my first manuscript. It was horrifyingly tight. So it was like, okay, I got to write 2,000 words a day. Got to read in that. But then I was like, there were points where it was like, I can't do my 2,000 words. So it's try not to beat yourself up. If you can't get your word count, um, it's okay. There's a reason. I mean, we think about our projects, 9 times more than we're actually sitting at a computer.
Right.
So it's all work. It's all about the work, no matter what we're doing. If you're invested in what you really, really want to do and what you need to do, yeah, give yourself a little bit of a break.
helps. I would think it would kind of, even out a little bit, that there are some days where it just flows and you know
Right.
what you want to do. And so, well, I can't stop. I'm at 2000 and, 3 words right now. I got to stop because I got to come back tomorrow. I just think you're right. There's a healthy distance when you're able to set something aside and then come back to it.
Right.
And same thing for just kind of enjoying that flow when that
Right.
happens.
Right. Absolutely.
So as long as you're writing every day.
Yep. That is
But I
very, very
think I
helpful.
think that's great advice to not focus on a word count.
Right.
Because I mean we all want to do the math. Like if you have to do so many words over
Yeah.
so many days, then you have we all want to do that.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
you
mean,
don't want to be like
I'd like to
sitting
have this
around doing
manuscript.
nothing and going,
Yeah.
oh, I got it like 90,000 words due
Like,
next week.
and then the guilt comes. It's like, oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're never really relaxed because that's kind of hanging over your head. But
Right. Right.
very cool. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of you who were watching and listening. And a thank you to our tech team, also known as Mike, for making sure everything went smoothly and
Thanks,
making
Mike.
sure. Yeah, thanks, Mike, for helping me with my mic. Huge thank you to MaxBacks Books. I'm sure you're all going to go out and buy from MaxBacks a copy of Redemption by, hold it up, Deborah J. Ledford. And then you'll want to buy the second one. And then part of the
Oh,
reason why I have these conversations with these fabulous writers is because you get to know them as people. And I think as readers, we become fiercely loyal to people that we have met and have heard and gotten to know a bit. And so then my hope is everybody will go out and read the entire backlist, everything that you write moving forward. Heck, your grocery list, your to-do list, whatever it is, we will read it. That is for sure. It's for
well, I
absolute
appreciate
sure.
this so much, Jen, and I can, I'm so thrilled to be here, and I thank you for reading the book,
Oh,
and thank
well,
you everybody for watching.
yeah,
You're just a jewel.
yeah. Thank you so much. I'm Jen Jumbo with Writers Unplugged. Happy reading.